Start saving with your very first job in high school or college. I mean, save 10%, save something.
Welcome to a new episode of the DefDevice Podcast. Today I have Kathy Cuevas with me. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I think we met on LinkedIn, right? We
Yes.
have, and we are on the opposite sides of the planet. You are in California and I'm in Malaysia. So there's a bit of a time zone difference, but we managed to make a time to meet today, and I'm very glad that you're here.
Thank you.
The podcast is obviously about you, about what you're doing. So let us know, what is your business about today?
After retiring 3 years ago, I have the desire and passion to help people, which is what I've been doing for 20 years financially, both men and women. But being a woman, I wanted to help more women out because we have maybe different struggles than men do. So after helping a lot of friends and family, I wanted to have a broader reach. So eventually during my years, I had coached people through my church, and I recently did a woman's mentoring group, and I spoke or helped guide a low income woman in her financial journey to have her have a better ending in her life. So right now on my own, I'm starting my own coaching business, and I'm focusing on women 40 and above to help them with any financial struggles they have, or if they have no struggles, educate them on how to invest better for their future.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so you're helping women to manage their financial issues and become financially independent. I think that's a very purposeful thing to do.
Yeah.
Cool. And you, I saw you also have a website and you have an online presence. So people who are like women, especially who are looking for your help, can always find you online. I will make sure that all the details will be in the description under the video.
Yes.
But today's
My
podcast,
website would probably be the main place because it has links to all my social media where I post videos and everything.
cool. Nice. So that makes me even more curious about how 10-year-old Kathy became the Kathy she is today. So as what we do on this podcast is we do a little time journey. We go back to 10-year-old Kathy, and then we would like to hear how she became the Kathy she is today. So let us know, Kathy, what was it like to be 10-year-old?
Well, that was tough. My mother divorced my father when I was 5, and my mother never remarried. So I was raised by a single Hispanic, a mother who was a housekeeper, and we grew up very poor, to say the least. And by the time she couldn't be a housekeeper anymore, she went on welfare, which was public assistance. So that's kind of the way I was raised. I didn't have what my friends had, who had almost everybody back then still had two parents and so forth. But part of what I became, I think, was a fascination I had with a game called Monopoly. My sister and I played, and we're 14 months apart, so we're pretty close. We played Monopoly a lot, and I always had to have Boardwalk and Park Place, and I'd always put hotels and houses on them. And I never really thought it was just a game back then, but I realized when I was, maybe in my 40s, I started getting interested in buying more real estate other than the house I lived in. So I started buying rental properties in '07 when our market took a big crash. And I got properties for about 30 cents on the dollar from what they were worth before. And now they've all surpassed that, but I've changed and sold a few. I've only got one original one left.
Wow. Okay. But there's still a lot of time left between 10-year-old Kathy and 40-year-old Kathy. So how did that happen? So how did you get from the Monopoly game to actually investing in houses? So did you, I mean, you're an entrepreneur today, right? So
Yeah.
how did this journey unfold?
Um, Going back to buying the houses, my interest was because my sister, who was younger, didn't really go to college, and her first husband ended up both getting in real estate, and they both owned several properties. And I was always envious of them traveling here and there. We're like the tortoise and the hare. I was the tortoise, and she was the hare, jumping really quick. And now we're totally opposite. I'm like up here financially, and she's down here financially. Um, because they didn't really learn lessons and spent everything they had. And along my way, I ended up getting a divorce, and that was probably one of the toughest times I've been through, and it financially crippled me. That I was almost lost the house I was living in with my two young girls at the time. And I was just struggling to make ends meet. I was a teacher, but I was an early on teacher, so I didn't have my 30 years in yet. So I was at the bottom of the pay scale, and it wasn't enough to even pay our bills. So I was not even living paycheck to paycheck. I was not even making it to the next paycheck. And that caused a lot of strife and ended up getting back then in about seven or so, $8,000 of credit card debt. And that was only to feed the girls and to clothe the girls. It wasn't, we didn't buy sodas. We didn't have anything extravagant. I wasn't spending, we didn't have cable back then. We were just living the basic skim down life. And I was fine with that, but it was just hard having that credit card debt loom over me because my mother had raised us. She always paid cash for things and never had the debt. So that just created a big burden on my shoulders that a lot of people, not just women, but men, some men too, but mostly women, just feel that uh, burden of like a big weight on your shoulders. And it's just overwhelming, depressing, sad. You got to be strong in front of your kids. And it was just a big mess. So slowly but surely, I learned about budgeting. I self-taught myself everything I did know how to do. And as I was making more money at school, I obviously started working summer school, and that was an extra few $1,000s every summer. And I would use that to help get caught up. And eventually, I paid off when their father had died. I started getting Social Security, which was a lot more than the money I was getting from child support. So I was able to quickly pay off the debt. And then I started saving for the first time. Better late than never, but that was the first lesson. You have to have an emergency account, which I never had. I think you live happily ever after you get somebody to depend on, but that's not the way it always goes. In fact, sadly, in our country, divorce is more prevalent than staying married forever. Um, so I had a lot of struggles. So I learned how to budget. I started saving. And then after I was comfortable and stable, then I started learning about investing in the stock market. So I would read articles from a company called Motley Fool. A couple of brothers started it. I got educated. I read a lot of articles. And then as time progressed on, I somehow got in touch of through social media or something, people. Um, I went to like real estate shows at conventions at the LA Convention Center and just things like that, and investing shows. I did investing weekends with people that were really good at investing that traded the way Warren Buffett, who's probably the one of the most richest people here, at the best trader we have in America. So I learned how to trade like that and turned very little money into multiples, hundreds of multiples of itself,
Wow.
which was nice. So I turned myself around. And I look back and now I want to just help a lot of people. So it's kind of like the fast forward view, skipping a lot of the hard knocks I went through, but I really went through a lot of hard knocks. So I have a passion. So I try to educate women who don't have a savings account. You don't know what life holds. Your husband could die if he doesn't divorce you or something or whatever your situation is. And you need to be able to sustain yourself. Right now, I'm kind of supporting one of my daughters living in one of my condos who hasn't even paid rent in 4 months. She's got health issues too, but it's just always one excuse. And I've told her for years she needed to have an emergency account, and that just never happened. So that's probably the biggest thing I want to get across to people is, you got to do that. Men or women, you got to have that emergency account. And I taught my students because my last 13 years as a teacher, I actually taught personal finance, and these kids that were low income, the whole school was low income, got the education that they needed to get their family out of the predicament they were in. So I'm just using my life circumstances, not just education, but circumstances. So I have an empathy and a passion for people doing those struggles. And so I just started my coaching business, and that's where I'm at today at mid stages of my coaching business.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's very inspiring. Uh, so what are you like the main things that you recommend or your advice to someone who comes to you and says, I'm struggling financially, I mean, to have a savings account, first of all, you need to make more money than you need to pay your bills, right? So I think
Not
it's
necessarily.
no, okay.
Now, there's
So
a lot of people that spend money like on Starbucks every day, and they don't realize that that's, I don't know, $100 a month. I don't go to Starbucks, but it's a lot of money. Some
mm,
people are lazy and just think that they deserve to buy lunch every day. That
mm,
costs a lot of money. For the
mm,
30 years I taught, at least the last 20 years, I probably didn't take lunch to work 5 times. And it's either because there was nothing in the house, which was my fault, or I forgot it because I was in a rush late for work or late for work. But in my case, being a teacher at the school, I was able to buy lunch for $1. So it's not like I was spending money. But for 30 years, I packed my lunch. I never bought lunch. I don't go to Starbucks. If
mm,
I do take myself out, like for a treat or something, it'd be like early days, it was like a low cost hamburger place where at McDonald's back in the day you can buy a
mm,
cheeseburger, fry, and a drink for under $1. Obviously, that's
mm.
not what's happened today, but you get the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's not just not having the money. I didn't have any money and I had to learn to save. You just
Mm,
cut out the stupid things or the trickle things in your life, or maybe go from a name brand can of goods to the store brand canned goods. A lot of them are
mm,
just as good, and I've learned that. Some I won't change, like tomatoes. When I do my lasagna, I will not leave the main label brand. But there's a lot of things I switched, and that's so easy to do. And that's just people just don't see it. And it's just telling them through what I learned, this is what you're doing. This is how you could do it. Change the mindset because it's not just giving them work. So here's your budget, do this. You need to work on their mind as well to help them um, buy into it and want to take ownership of it and just start to say, hey, you know what? That drink is not worth it. That could be used towards this, or that could get me out of debt, or that could start building my emergency account. So it's just changing the mindset as to what their money can do for them instead of working for it just to have more money.
mm,
You could be a millionaire and not have a savings account because you spent it and wasted it on everything in the planet, showing your friends what you got, but then you got nothing to show for it.
That's yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the first step is you teach people how to simply save money, right? How
Yeah,
to not
yes,
waste money on things that are unnecessary or don't actually yeah, they don't really
yes.
need. And yeah, I'm familiar with this concept of people who have like 6, 7 figure incomes and they spend it all on something, you know, to brag and
Ferraris.
on Ferraris. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I agree. The first thing would be to save money, to be like more to change your mindset about what is important to spend money on and what is not. The second aspect I would comes to mind would be how to make more money, I guess, right? So do you also
Yes.
cover this area?
I can, and there's a lot of things you can do just within your house without even taking on a second job. A lot of people have talents they don't realize where they can either go through their house and find things they're not using and just post them online and sell them. It may not be a lot of money, but it's something extra, and that something extra can go straight to the savings account if they can't take it from somewhere else. Or maybe they have a talent, maybe they can walk neighbors' dogs, something that's not time consuming. Those are
Mm,
such easy things that they can
mm,
do to make without even taking them away from the home. Like in my case, I was a single mom. If I would have thought or known back then I could babysit other people at night while the parents go out. What's taking on another kid or two? It doesn't do anything to my schedule. I'm still at home with my kids. And the same thing with taking on dogs when people need them boarded when they travel. So
mm,
there's so many things you can do that don't cost you money that can make you money.
mm.
So
All right.
this again is just your mindset. Well, I can't
Mm,
have time to take a job. I'm already working 2 jobs. Well, that's not always, the only way out.
mhm, mhm, mhm. All right.
Obviously, it's probably more consistent, but not the only way out.
Yeah. Okay, so we have number one would be save money. Number two is, you know, be smart about making more money. And then I
Mhm.
guess number three would be how to invest your money. And this is something you cover as well.
Yes. Like I said, I'm self-taught in that part I majored in business in school, but nothing taught me what I know as far as investing. So I learned how to invest in the stock market first, probably even before I had a 403(b) through my work, my retirement account. And I had like maybe $50 to start, but that $50 is now over half a million, just a few years, 20 years later. So it doesn't matter how small you start, it's just being consistent, but it's not just buying anything. And I taught my students this before. I mean, imagine a kid in high school not knowing anything about stocks, but they do know what clothes they buy, they know what phone they have, they may or may not know who makes all the components inside their phone. So, for example, a lot of the students had Apple phones. They wanted to buy Apple stock. I said, yes, but if you don't have an Apple phone, you have an Android phone or something else. What's inside both of those phones? And of course, there's Intel inside, the same as computers. So then you got the Intel company who puts things into Apple and into the Android and everything else. So it's just breaking down the simplicity of stocks. If you like to buy it, probably a lot of people in your age group like to buy it. So with my kids in the GameStop and things like that, these women that spend too much money on Starbucks coffee, it could be Starbucks. That's a great company. Chipotle is another excellent company to invest in because they've got very good money sense, smart sense. They've got good business practices. They've got a good program. So I taught my students how to look at a company, what makes them succeed. I throw out the name Purina. First of all, what do you think when I mention the word Purina? What do you think of?
Familia.
Dog food?
Oh, is
It's
it?
it's a dog food brand.
Okay.
But I
Well,
told
they're
my
not present in
students,
Malaysia. I don't think so, but yeah.
oh, okay. I'm sorry, I asked a question
No
you couldn't
worries.
answer it.
No
Yeah,
worries.
here in America, dog food is Purina is a big company that makes dog food, but that's not all they do. If you look online at their company stock page, you can get a lot of information there. They make candy, they make some household products. So it's just learning about these. Okay, so people they lose their job, they can't afford to feed their dog. What are they spending money on? I mean, if you lost your job and had to spare bare necessities, what are you still spending money on? Toilet paper, toothbrush, cleaning stuff, your shaving cream. Who makes those? What company makes that? And Johnson is a very good one here in the United States. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah.
of that company.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Procter and Gamble.
Yeah.
They're worldwide. So
Hmm.
if you think of the products, even in a bad economy, what people have to have,
Mm.
those companies will not go belly up
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they have such a demand for their products. So this is just education that I teach.
Oh, okay. So you teach people how to make the right decision on what stocks to invest in and what industries would be relevant. Or do you actually tell them like buy this, buy Johnson and Johnson right now? Or do you give them like this particular advice on which stocks to invest, or do you just
Definitely
simply
not.
no?
Because I had a saying, you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. You can teach him how to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life.
Ah,
The same thing with stocks. TikTok is full of people, full of influencers telling you buy this stock, buy this stock, buy this stock. But the trouble is they're influencers selling something they have no knowledge about. And what they may be doing for someone else is building up the price of the stock. Then the main person who told me to, get them to sell that stock for them, they pull their money out after you've driven their price up. Then guess what happens? The stock plummets and everybody who bought into it lost their money. So I would never give advice on what to buy. I would teach them how to find a good company because
oh,
pretty soon I may not be around. And when I'm not there, who's going to tell you what to do, what to buy? You
mm,
don't.
mm.
Another saying I have is nobody should care more about your money than you. Your financial advisor shouldn't care more about your money than you. You should know what your advisor is doing with your money, your retirement account. And if you don't, then your money's not that important to you. So if it goes bye bye bye, then that's on you. I'm not saying you have to know about the stock market. Not everybody has to invest. Not everybody's good at, not everybody should do that. There's other ways you can make money. And if you don't know the stock market, then there's always mutual funds. Those are pretty safe. So if you look at, let's say, like in here in America, the Nasdaq or the Standard and Poor's, that's a broad range of companies. So that if any, instead of picking this one or this one, what if this one or this one goes down and plummets or they go belly up? Well, the Standard& Poor's has a range of companies that if something goes belly up, you got the rest of it holding up the weight. So those are a good safe bet. So I teach people how, if they just don't have the knack or don't want to deal with individual stocks, then there's mutual funds. And even better than mutual funds, there's EFTs, ETFs, exchange traded funds. Those are usually not managed by a person. They follow an indices like the S&P 500 or the Dow or the this or energy or this or that. And they have very low fees, if not no fees. So when you put money in, 100% of your money is working for you, not paying $1, $2, $5 a year going out the back door, paying for the manager that's managing and picking and buying what funds to put it or stocks to put in there. So I just make them smart about investing if that's where they're at.
That's very cool. Yeah, I think we all need this kind of advice, and I honestly wish we had learned at least the basics of these things in school, but they don't
Yeah.
teach these. They don't teach the most essential parts of life in school, like how to deal with money and how to deal with relationships. I didn't learn any of that in school.
Well, I
So
didn't
you're,
either. Even graduating with a business degree, I didn't learn it in college either. But
yeah, yeah,
thankfully,
yeah,
here in the
yeah, yeah,
States, about
yeah.
half of the states now are mandating it have to be required for graduation from high school, just a basic one semester course. That is still better than nothing. Not the best. I had a
Yeah.
year-long class. My kids played the stock market. They learned everything about life in my class, and I had them for a full year. So I would give them a semester hands down instead of nothing at any time. So we are making that change here. They've learned that in the states that had the education, there's less bankruptcies, and the people in that state have higher FICO scores. Their credit scores are a lot better, which means they're getting better rates on their loans. Versus states that don't have that education, they have too much credit card debt. They're going belly up. They're filing bankruptcy. That's just a fact. So they're
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
finally wising up, and by 2033, the goal is every high school in America will have a mandate for one semester course before a student graduates.
Fantastic. So yeah, you have been filling the gap in this whole financial education for your students and now also for your coaching clients who can just
Yes.
come to you and get all this wonderful advice from you. I think that's incredible.
Yes.
Fantastic. So
Definitely needed.
as a closing word, I would ask you to share your nuggets of wisdom. So if you would give some advice to 10-year-old Kathy, what would it be?
Start saving with your very first job in high school or college. I mean, save 10%, save something. And don't forget to treat yourself. Don't just, and I'm not saying spend all your money. If you're working on saving, yes, save diligently, but then save some for having fun. Because if you just save all the time, then you're going to end up going to that savings and it's not going to be there. So you have to treat yourself, but within reason. But saving is probably the most crucial thing I wish I would have known earlier, and I would have alleviated a lot of my early mistakes, not having that savings safety net.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure to have you here on my podcast, and I will make sure, as I said, that people can easily reach out to you using the link in the description. And yeah, I think you're doing something really wonderful here, something really meaningful, and I wish you all the best with your business, and I hope we can stay in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's just not enough of me to go around. There's such a need for people for financial advice. So that's definitely a huge area.
Fully agreed. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you.